You have probably experienced this feeling before. You step onto the scale, look down, and see that the number has finally dropped. 5 pounds, 10 pounds, maybe more. You feel a sudden rush of relief. You look in the mirror and your clothes fit a little looser. Your face looks a little thinner. You think to yourself, it is finally working. My body is responding. I am getting my health back. And that feeling of victory is incredibly real. But here is the harsh truth that nobody tells you. That piece of plastic and glass on your bathroom floor is lying to you. The scale can only tell you how much you weigh against gravity. It cannot tell you what is actually happening deep inside your body. It cannot tell you if you are truly getting healthier. Because right now, hidden beneath the surface, far out of sight from any mirror, there might be an invisible enemy quietly taking control of your life. Most of us think that all body fat is exactly the same. We think of it as just extra stored energy, a bit of extra padding that we want to get rid of so we can look better and feel lighter. But human biology tells a completely different and, frankly, terrifying story. There is the fat you can pinch, the fat on your arms, your thighs, or right under your skin. That fat might be annoying to look at, but biologically speaking, it is relatively harmless. It just sits there, keeping you warm and storing energy. Then, there is visceral fat. This is not just stored calories. Visceral fat is entirely different. It is a living, active, and highly aggressive entity inside your belly. Imagine a toxic chemical factory operating 24 hours a day right inside your abdomen. That is exactly what visceral fat is. Instead of sitting peacefully under your skin, visceral fat pushes its way deep into your core. It wraps its thick, heavy tissue directly around your vital organs. It violently squeezes your liver. It suffocates your heart, making every single beat harder and more exhausting than the last. It tangles itself around your intestines and your pancreas, choking off their ability to function properly. And worst of all, it never rests. This toxic factory constantly pumps out dangerous inflammatory chemicals, known as cytokines, directly into your bloodstream. It puts your entire immune system into a state of chronic, red alert emergency. It is silently setting the stage for heart disease, severe cognitive decline, and rapid cellular aging. All of this happens while you might look perfectly fine on the outside. You cannot pinch it, you cannot suck it in, and you cannot measure it on a normal scale. But what if you could fight back? What actually happens inside your organs, your blood, and your brain when this toxic, suffocating layer of visceral fat finally begins to break down and melt away? The biological revolution that happens inside you is nothing short of a miracle. And it all begins with a single, silent signal. When your body senses a true need for energy, perhaps because you have stretched the time between your meals, or because you are practicing intermittent fasting, it does not panic. Instead, it sends out a highly specific, encrypted chemical message. This message travels through your bloodstream, searching for the deepest, most dangerous energy reserves first. Your body is incredibly intelligent. It knows that the visceral fat suffocating your organs is a threat, so it targets that toxic fat directly. As these chemical messengers knock on the doors of your visceral fat cells, the thick walls of the fat begin to break open. But what happens next is not just a simple release of stored energy. It is the beginning of a profound endocrine reset. For years, or maybe even decades, that thick layer of visceral fat has kept your body locked in a perpetual state of emergency. Because visceral fat is constantly pumping out inflammatory chemicals, your brain perceives this as a continuous physical threat. To deal with this invisible danger, your adrenal glands have been pumping out cortisol, your primary stress hormone, day after day, year after year. High cortisol keeps you in fight or flight mode. It breaks down your valuable muscle tissue, it ruins your sleep quality, And ironically, it commands your body to store even more belly fat. You might have felt exhausted, overwhelmed, and anxious, wondering why you cannot just relax. It was not just in your head, it was in your abdomen. But as those visceral fat cells finally begin to shrink and dissolve, the inflammatory alarms start to quiet down. And as the alarms quiet down, your cortisol levels begin to plummet. For the first time in a very long time, your nervous system steps out of that exhausting fight or flight response. It seamlessly shifts into rest and digest mode. The constant, invisible tension that you didn't even realize you were carrying simply evaporates. You breathe deeper, you sleep sounder, your body realizes that the war is over. And as your nervous system finally relaxes, an even more miraculous change happens in your brain. If you have ever felt like you are constantly fighting a losing battle with your appetite, if you feel hungry even after eating a heavy meal, you are not weak, and you do not lack willpower. You have been suffering from a biological condition called leptin resistance. Leptin is the powerful hormone that tells your brain, I am full, we have enough energy, you can stop eating now. But when your abdomen is packed with visceral fat, your leptin levels become artificially sky high. The signal is screaming at your brain. But the inflammation causes your brain to become completely deaf to it. Your brain actually thinks you are starving to death, even when you are physically full. So it forces you to crave more food, keeping you trapped in a vicious, exhausting cycle of guilt and uncontrollable hunger. Here is the beautiful turning point. As the visceral fat melts away, the overwhelming noise of inflammation cools down, and suddenly, your brain regains its hearing. The leptin resistance begins to reverse. For the first time in years, when you eat a meal, your brain clearly hears the signal that you are satisfied. You naturally push the plate away without forcing it, and without feeling deprived. The desperate late-night cravings disappear. The obsessive thoughts about your next meal simply fade away. You are no longer fighting your biology. You are finally working in perfect harmony with it. And with this overwhelming hunger finally out of the way, the floodgates open for the most vital organ in your body to undergo its own dramatic transformation. As the walls of your visceral fat cells continue to open, a massive stream of free fatty acids enters your bloodstream. This flood travels directly to your liver. In the past, when you were struggling with excess weight, your liver was overwhelmed. It was forced to store these fats inside its own cells, leading to dysfunction and sluggishness. But now, as your body moves into a state of deep repair, your liver makes a radical choice. It stops storing fat and starts processing it. Think of your liver as the ultimate chemical refinery of your body. Instead of being burdened by this influx, it welcomes these fatty acids as raw material for a new kind of energy. It begins a process of high-speed metabolic restructuring. Your liver starts to break down these fats and convert them into something extraordinary. It starts to produce ketones. Ketones are not just a backup fuel. They are a premium, high-octane power source. For years, your brain has been forced to run almost exclusively on glucose, or sugar. But glucose is a messy fuel. It creates metabolic waste and oxidative stress, often leaving you feeling tired, scattered, and mentally exhausted. When your liver begins pumping ketones into your bloodstream, it is like upgrading a standard car engine with rocket fuel. As these ketones cross the blood-brain barrier, the effect is almost immediate. That heavy, persistent mental cloud, often called brain fog, begins to lift. Your focus becomes sharper. Your memory feels more accessible. You experience a level of calm, steady, and unwavering mental energy that you might not have felt since you were a child. There are no more afternoon crashes, no more searching for words, just a clean, continuous stream of clarity that allows you to think and perform at your absolute best. But your liver does not stop there. For years, your visceral fat has acted like a biological trash can, because your body did not know how to safely eliminate certain environmental toxins, heavy metals, or chemical additives. It did the safest thing it could. It trapped them inside your visceral fat cells to keep them away from your vital organs. Now that this fat is finally melting away, these long-forgotten toxins are released into your system. This could be a dangerous moment, but your newly upgraded liver is ready. Because it is no longer clogged with its own fat, your liver can finally dedicate its full power to detoxification. It identifies these released chemicals, neutralizes them, and prepares them to be flushed out of your body forever. You are not just losing weight. You are literally purifying your internal environment. You are cleaning out the pipes and upgrading the power grid at the same time. Every hour that your liver spends processing these fats is an hour spent rejuvenating your blood, your brain, and your cells. And as your blood becomes cleaner and your energy more stable, the healing effects begin to move even deeper into your core, reaching the very center of your immune system and your emotions. While your liver is busy purifying your blood and fueling your brain, another transformation is happening just inches away. Deep within your digestive system, a silent healing process is taking place that will change not just how you feel physically, but how you experience the world emotionally. For a long time, the toxic inflammation from your visceral fat acted like a slow-burning fire, constantly damaging the delicate lining of your intestines. This chronic irritation created tiny gaps in your gut barrier, allowing unwanted particles to leak into your system and keeping your immune system in a state of constant low-level war. But as that fat melts away and the fire of inflammation finally goes out, your body begins to repair the damage. The intestinal wall starts to stitch itself back together. The gaps are sealed. The gut barrier becomes strong and resilient once again. And as the environment inside your gut stabilizes, a remarkable shift happens in your internal ecosystem. Your gut is home to trillions of microorganisms, a vast community that influences almost every aspect of your health. When you were carrying excess visceral fat, the bad bacteria often thrived on the inflammation and high sugar levels, drowning out the beneficial species. But now the tides are turning. With the toxic pressure removed, your beneficial bacteria begin to flourish. They reclaim their territory, creating a lush, vibrant garden of microscopic life that works in perfect harmony with your body. This is where the true miracle happens. Most of us were taught that happiness is something that happens in the head. We think of joy, calm, and emotional stability as purely mental states. But science has discovered a startling truth. About 95% of your serotonin, the primary hormone responsible for regulating your mood, sleep, and appetite, is actually produced in your gut. When your gut is inflamed and your microbiome is out of balance, your production of serotonin suffers. This is why many people struggling with metabolic health also find themselves battling unexplained anxiety, irritability, and a persistent low mood. You weren't just stressed because of your life. Your body was physically struggling to produce the chemicals you need to feel happy. But as your gut lining heals and your healthy bacteria return to power, your internal serotonin factory comes back online. Suddenly, you might notice a shift in your perspective. The small stresses of daily life don't seem quite so heavy. The background noise of anxiety begins to quiet down. You start to feel a sense of natural, stable optimism that doesn't depend on external circumstances. It is a biological sense of well-being, rising from your core and traveling up the vagus nerve directly to your brain. Your gut is finally talking to your brain in a language of peace instead of a language of alarm. You are regaining control over your emotions by healing your foundation. And with your mood stabilized and your energy rising, your body is now ready to address the very pipes that keep your life force flowing. With your gut healing and your liver purifying your blood, The transformation now reaches the very highway of your life, your cardiovascular system. For years, your heart has been working under a brutal, invisible pressure. It was not just pumping blood. It was fighting against a tight, inflamed, and resistant network of vessels. But as the visceral fat disappears, your heart finally experiences a moment of profound liberation. Think of your arteries like a network of flexible pipes. When visceral fat dominates your body, those pipes become stiff and brittle. The constant inflammatory chemicals acting like sandpaper, scratching and scarring the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels. This damage forces your heart to push harder, raising your blood pressure and wearing out your system. But now, the sandpaper is gone. The inflammation cools down. Your blood vessels regain their youthful elasticity. They begin to widen and relax, allowing your blood to flow with effortless grace. And something even more remarkable happens to your cholesterol. For a long time, you might have been told that your numbers were too high, but cholesterol is often just a symptom of a deeper struggle. As your internal environment stabilizes, your body no longer needs to send out emergency repair crews of bad cholesterol to patch up inflamed arteries. Naturally and without force, your high-density lipoprotein, or the good cholesterol, begins to rise, while the dangerous, small particles of bad cholesterol begin to drop. Your blood profile is not just changing on a piece of paper, it is becoming a shield for your future. Statistics show that by reducing your visceral fat by just 10%, you can slash your risk of cardiovascular disease by a staggering 30%. That is not just a number. It is years of life added back to your story. It is more time with your family, more energy for your passions, and a heart that beats with strength instead of struggle. But the most liberating change of all is something called metabolic flexibility. Most people are trapped in a biological cage. Their bodies only know how to burn sugar for energy. When the sugar from their last meal runs out, they hit a wall. They feel shaky, irritable, and exhausted. They are tethered to the kitchen, forced to eat every few hours just to keep going. When you lose that visceral fat, you break those chains. Your body regains the ancient, lost art of switching between fuels. You become metabolically flexible. Imagine being able to skip a meal and feeling more energetic, not less. Imagine your body smoothly transitioning from burning the food you just ate to burning the deep reserves of fat stored on your frame. No more energy crashes. No more hangry outbursts. You finally have a steady, reliable internal battery that never runs dry. You are no longer a slave to your next snack. You are a high-performance machine, capable of sustaining power and focus for hours on end. Your body is finally working the way nature intended, and you are just one step away from the ultimate cellular cleanup. As your body masters the art of burning fat for fuel, it unlocks one final, hidden superpower. This is the deepest level of healing known to biological science. It is a process called autophagy. In ancient Greek, autophagy literally means self-eating. But do not let that name scare you. It is not a process of destruction. It is the ultimate act of renewal. Think of it as a highly trained, elite cleaning crew that only enters your cells when your insulin levels are low and your visceral fat is melting away. For years, your cells have been accumulating junk. Broken proteins, damaged mitochondria, and old, sluggish cellular parts that act like rust in a machine. This cellular debris is a primary driver of aging and disease. But during this great internal shift, the cleanup crew of autophagy identifies this junk, breaks it down, and recycles it into brand new, healthy cellular components. You are quite literally becoming new from the inside out. Your body is scavenging its own damaged parts to build a stronger, more resilient version of you. But how long does this miracle take? This transformation is not an overnight event. It is a beautifully orchestrated journey through time. In the first 2 weeks, the primary focus is mobilization. Your body is waking up. It is beginning to pull those toxic fatty acids out of storage and sending them to the liver. You might feel your energy levels stabilizing as the initial sugar withdrawal fades and your internal furnace begins to flicker to life. By the end of the second month, the hormonal reset is in full swing. This is the stage where your clothes feel significantly different, but the real change is in your chemistry. Your cortisol has dropped. Your leptin sensitivity is returning. The constant gnawing hunger you once felt has been replaced by a calm, steady appetite. Your heart and blood vessels are experiencing their first taste of true freedom as inflammation retreats. And then, as you cross the 6-month mark, you enter the era of total regeneration. This is when the effects of autophagy become visible to the world. Your skin may appear more vibrant because your cells are recycling old collagen. Your brain feels sharper because your neurons have been cleaned of metabolic waste. At 6 months, you are not just someone who lost weight. You are a person with a completely different biological profile. Your risk for chronic disease has plummeted. Your energy is boundless. And your body has finally returned to its original, intended state of harmony. You have moved beyond just surviving. You are now thriving in a body that knows how to repair itself, protect itself, and sustain itself for the long haul. We have traveled deep into the hidden corners of your biology, from the toxic factories of visceral fat to the majestic regeneration of your cells. And after seeing this incredible transformation, there is one final vital truth you must understand. Your body has never been your enemy. All those years when you were carrying that extra weight, when you felt sluggish, inflamed, and tired, your body was not trying to fail you. It was actually trying to protect you. It stored that visceral fat as a desperate survival mechanism, a way to shield your vital organs from a world of excess energy and environmental stress. It was doing the best it could with the signals it was receiving. But as we have seen today, when you change those signals, your body responds with a miracle. The moment you decide to lower that toxic burden, your body does not just lose weight. It orchestrates a symphony of healing. Your liver purifies, your heart breathes, your brain clears, and your cells begin the profound work of rebuilding themselves. It is a biological homecoming. You are returning to the version of yourself that nature always intended you to be, vibrant, resilient, and full of life. The journey to burning off that final layer of visceral fat is not about punishment or deprivation. It is about a deep, fundamental respect for the vessel that carries you through this world. It is about giving your heart a chance to beat without struggle, and your mind a chance to think without fog. The science is clear, and the path is open. Whether you are in your 40s, your 50s, or far beyond, your body is waiting for your command. It is ready to flip the switch from storage to survival, and finally to thriving. You do not have to be a victim of your past habits or your current biology. You have the power to initiate this internal revolution starting right now. Every healthy choice you make is a new signal. Every moment of discipline is a message of love to your future self. Take that first step today. Listen to your body, give it the right environment, and watch as it performs the miraculous work it was designed to do. Because when your visceral fat finally melts away, you aren't just gaining a better body, you are gaining a new life. And that life is waiting for you.